Deja vu is weird. Deja vu, at first, doesn't seem like it would be spoilerific, but in retrospect, it most certainly is. And by the way, this would be not just the first or second time that Aelita's been the main focus of the attack. This will happen to her a couple more times before all is said and done when we're through this journey of 96. But here at 46, it comes off as rather strange or off-put, using the visions introduced in the first couple of episodes and then ratcheting it up. This highlights the fact that Xana knows more about what's really going on than a computer virus should know. Putting rather spooky visions in Aelita's head at weird times, oddly. And oh boy, what this episode leads into is Aelita's one, if not only, character flaw. She is aggressively driven through stubbornness. Now, oftentimes, the show will prove her correct. That her stubbornness is exactly what needed to be done. And this episode attempts that yet again. But for the first time ever, her stubbornness is practically called out by Jeremy, of all people, the most stubborn, self-driven, controlling, toxic rat that this show has, is calling his waifu out. Rightfully so, actually. He's actually in the right this time, which is kind of shocking, all things considered, for Jeremy to be in the right, because he rightfully calls it out that it could actually be a Xana attack once he figures out that there's a tower in play, especially. Jeremy actually says and makes the right calls. But Aelita is determined to find the answer her own way. And this gets her into trouble. Not once, but twice. Sure, getting the tower cleared out in the desert sector is easy enough. But Aelita's off to get answers. And she heads off, stupidly, alone to Sector 5 in hopes that the mainframe computer can give her the answers to the vision she seeks. So much so that she heads off to the Hermitage on her own, unassisted, without support, and finds her way solo to the factory once the situation is given to her. Which, props for agency. Even saying to Jeremy that she can get to the factory on her own, that she knows the way. Points for agency there. And this is really one of the episodes, outside of a couple earlier this season, where Aelita shows self-driven agency here. But this is the first time that it's shown as an inherently negative trait. But throughout all of this, she gets captured by the Trimbazoa not once, but twice. First time that's happened to this point. But with both situations ending up in proper saves. Once tower is deactivated, and once Aelita stupidly gets her fill, the visions are magically gone. But the strange thing about these visions, though, is we'll find out later down the line. But although for this episode, they might come off as false memories of a life not lived, the truth of the matter is there's more to it. That's right. Keep these visions in mind because they're going to matter later. Yes, there's a silly subplot about Odd doing internet dating, in which it turns out to be Elizabeth, oddly enough, much to Odd's dismay. But the fact that the two can get along well as long as they don't see each other is also a very odd, no pun intended, writing choice here. This episode is a 4 out of 6, and it's one of the more sneaky, relevant episodes this early in the game. But you won't find out how relevant it is until we get to the end of Season 2 and beyond. That's how sneaky relevant it actually is. Plus, the idea of Xana implanting false memories into your head is a rather creepy thing we can add to things that Xana can do, on top of everything else that he can do. But luckily, things won't be as dark or as stressful when we get down to next week in the episode Tip Top Shape, which is actually hilarious. We're nearing the home stretch of Season 2, and we're going to be in December proper. And by the time we get to Christmas, hey, we might actually be out of the Season 2 popsicle stand. Which is sad, because Season 3 is nothing but profound sadness. Or at least that's what my memory recalls. We'll get to that point soon. I'm Nirvana Sparkle. Find peace in your own Nirvana. This has been the Aelita Diaries for this week. See you next week for Tip Top Shape.